Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 17 of Podfluxxx. We are Podfluxxx, and Ricky Reyes is running on some major CPT tonight. Ricky, would you like to explain to the viewers and listeners what CPT is and why you have it?
It would be what white people refer to as colored people time.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a little bit late, maybe delivered halfway or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I was running late. My bad.
All good. I mean, I ran late by an entire day last week, and you didn't even give
That's
me shit about that. The
that's
second you
true.
were a little bit late, I immediately went racial.
Just yeah,
So, but you know what? You can't be considered a racist when you dislike everybody equally, right?
equally right, right. Yeah, we don't like anyone. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we cover it all here.
Yeah, that's it. We're rounding all the bases. Everything's a home run. And speaking of home runs, there's just a couple. There's really only like two things that I want to talk about tonight, but it encompasses a lot.
Right.
And what it is basically last night's episode of AEW Collision. Now, this is the part of the show where I say, "Hey, Ricky, what'd you catch from Collision last night?" And then you go, "I didn't see anything, but on Twitter." So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I did want to talk about the collision ratings, I guess, that came
Mm-hmm.
out for, I think it was Punk and Starks.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So did you happen to see what those were and how the quarter hour breakdowns of that?
No, but if you vamp for a minute,
Hmm.
I will attempt to find them.
Well, basically, I wanted to touch on how they do the show. Clearly, Punk has his fingerprints all over it.
Yeah.
Uh, like AJ Lee's body, and their each segment is built to kind of introduce or get us to the next segment, which is what you're supposed to do in especially in wrestling television. Uh, it's what you're setting up. It's how you're leading in all these things that you have to take into factor. Like what did you do? How do you come off of that segment and so forth to kind of like bring everybody along, kind of like a match, um, story building or a movie or whatever. But it's funny because the collision ratings increase every quarter hour.
Right.
Every 15 minutes, it'll either stay pretty steady and you might lose maybe 1,000-ish, less than 10 for sure. But then by the time they got to the main event of the collision that included FTR and BC Gold for almost an hour, the show increased. So I think by the time it got to the finish or going into the finish, I think they went over slightly, but it was at its highest point almost. I know it was over 600,000 for that last quarter hour. But
Now, are you talking about
the finals of the
the
Owen Hart,
finals?
right? Starks and Punk. Um, but really, what I wanted to touch on was how it's so simple, right? It's almost too simple.
Right.
Uh, Also, the fact that how the newer wrestlers, I don't know how much inside the locker room you are during the shows at VPW, but the the bickering and crying of the very underneath talent or people just not kind of getting their shots or whatever, they seem to complain, and what they want to like pull out and say or use as excuses for just flat out sucking is that the business has changed. Things change. There's constant the word, oh, well, it's changing. So I'm doing my match like this, and this guy told me I shouldn't, but the business changed. It doesn't change. That's a cop out for people
Right.
that suck at it and don't want to take the time to learn about it and understand it, then break it down and then build their own unique way of doing the business. They just feel like, well, one time Ricochet said the business changed and look at him. Well, he's a unique exception to the rule. But in order to be successful in the WWE, he has to understand their business and how it goes and excel at that,
Right.
And same thing for, let's say, Will Ospreay, who's another exception to the rule, where he can do his unique style. And now that he's a heavyweight and now that he's getting older, all of a sudden he's wrestling normal style matches, at least in Japan, when he's, not doing the stunts or the big once or twice.
All right, you froze up on me a little bit there. Now I'm gonna keep going.
And what they've always done.
There you are.
And
We lost you for a minute.
and that. Oh, okay. So.
And then for another one.
Yeah.
And he's back
All right.
again. That's two.
All right. Just making sure you guys are paying attention.
Yeah.
Fluxers. But like going back to like the Ospreay saying stuff like that, which is, the business isn't changing. Different style wrestlers come in, and if they understand the business, they will adapt and then start to form their own unique style within the system.
Did you ever notice that the business is changing is a negative connotation, but
correct.
The business is evolving is a positive thing?
Right.
So you can figure out what kind of a person you're talking to right there by
that
the terminology they want to put on it.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, okay, so that'd be a perfect, example of like an Ospreay. The business is evolving, and then, a negative would be, somebody who's not as good and just wants to do what they want to do. The business is changing, or we're changing it, or whatever, and it's so ridiculous because the highest, most watched angle that's being played out today is booking 101. It's a group building stars out of the group, the stars slowly turning on the main person in the group, and then they're going to venture off and become stars doing their own things. It's
right.
It's basically booking wrestling 101. It really is.
Now I'm having a tough time finding the quarter-hour breakdowns, which was odd because I did come across them a few days ago, but right now I'm finding overall ratings.
Yeah,
and,
no, it's not that important. I was just what happened was, on Collision with Starks and Punk on top, each quarter hour increased slightly to where the last 15 minutes of the show was at its highest point. And then if you look at the Dynamite ratings, they'll lose thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people,
hundreds in some cases.
In some cases, yeah, like in 2 quarters they could drop 100,000 people, which shows they don't care, or what they already saw has satisfied their wrestling, exhibition, parkour, whatever. It's like they saw so much, and maybe the first 30 minutes they're full. They're just kind of like, yeah, I don't need to see this crap anymore, and the thing about the Collision show is, even with an hour-long match, they still had interest going into the main event, probably knowing it wasn't going to be an hour, but still wanted to see, that last match and what it meant. And I felt that like FTR and Bullet Club Gold, they're such good wrestlers, all of them, that they clearly didn't need to pull out furniture and pull out this, that, and the other. They were just good at developing and getting to the finish, which was ultimately like the big, right? Like the 2 out of 3 falls. Who won the first fall? The heels. So now what do the faces have to do? Fight from underneath. Oh, a surprise finish. There it is. The big shot. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, we're all tied up. Now you slow it down even more because you know that they're hooked. They got to see a little bit of everything. You reset the crowd, and then you start building towards those big, swerves and dips and, and so forth. But it really is just like, again, yes, I don't watch it, but when you follow along and you're looking at it even in real time, you can kind of understand what's happening, and it's so simple. It's brilliant. It's just kind of bringing the people along. And that is, the business is not changing. That isn't, the business is evolving, that is just modern day pro wrestling, good pro wrestling done correctly on a good television show that's laid out for that exact reason, to build, and then end on a high note.
It is interesting to see that it looks like slowly, week over week, Collision is building an audience bigger.
Of course,
a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and it's almost a comparable audience to Dynamite. But you'll notice, like with the ratings trends, that Collision will still lose some people over the course of the show, but in the grand scheme of what their overall number is, it's such a small percentage of people that they lose throughout the course of the show, because they might lose, 8,000 on one segment, but then 5,000 come back.
Right.
Okay, that's just out of thin air, just easy numbers to work with. Whereas on Dynamite, they'll lose 75,000 people over 2 segments, but only 6,000 come back.
Yeah, exactly.
So the percentage of audience lost there from the end of a Collision show might be, they lost 5% of their audience.
Right, exactly.
You look at Dynamite, and they're losing, in some cases, like between 20 and 30% of their audience.
Yes. On a weekday.
Yeah, on prime time on a weekday.
Right.
Whereas like Saturday night, you got people who are
in the summer.
Yeah, watching the show, and the number is growing weekly.
Right. And then and on that, wait till the fall when, kids are back in school and it's a little more structured at home, and you're not kind of, on the go, or college people and students that do watch wrestling, the younger audience is going to be, well, I can't go out tonight or whatever, and it's going to be a little
outside. I'm going to watch wrestling.
Yeah, it's a little more structured, and it's not a summertime where you're like, oh, well, I was at the beach for 2 weeks. What happened on wrestling? A casual fan, but it's, and that's what I was saying, was the difference between the two shows are night and day, and we all kind of have a good idea of why. And the Wednesday night why is a bunch of people with the attitude of, well, the business is changing, we're changing it. And then there's the Saturday night attitude of, this is how we do it, this is what's successful, let's just be successful at what it's always what has always been successful, right? It's like it's real simple. It's a very black and white mentality of like, okay, you're the good guy, I'm the bad guy, so now this Starks Punk story is what we're going with, and then the FTR, proving their dominance. For what? To show that they're the best. For what? So when a team does come and beat them, they beat somebody.
Right.
This is all, so I remember
To
when
quote Sean, we're just going out there and doing fucking wrestling.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And we did good at that stuff, for years. And again, I remember when Dynamite had just started that the Young Bucks lost to
Private Party.
Yes, them.
With a bullshit finish to get them over.
And then beat them up afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Only the Young Bucks know that the Young Bucks are a big deal at that time because it was too early. They didn't even do a year of the Young Bucks dominating and Omega dominating, and these were going to be the guys. And a year later, oh my God, Kenny Omega finally lost, or the Young Bucks lost the belts to Private Party or, whomever they were going to lose to. They didn't. They only acknowledged their fans as like, oh, we're putting the kids over. That's why we did it. This is it's all about us losing as opposed to building Private Party as like they're as legit as they think they are or whatever.
Omega did the same shit. He put Pac over on one of those early shows.
Yes.
And then when he was the world champion, I remember I got into it with Meltzer on Twitter over, Omega went out there with somebody who I'd literally never, ever seen before. It might have been one of the Dark Order guys. And they went like 15 minutes, like competitive.
Yes.
And Dave was like, oh, Flair did it with George South. And I was like, not on fucking national TV. He didn't.
Yeah.
He
did it in the Armory in South Carolina.
In front of the world,
Yeah.
George South showed up at TV, every week for 100 years and made everybody look fantastic. Flair threw him a bone once. The two are not comparable.
Right. Yeah. It's so. Yeah, but I just wanted to point out that the simplicity of Collision, like we were talking about, it's a very simple show that, and in the first couple of weeks, it really didn't give you anything to really hook you. But we both knew it was coming. Right. And when it did, it was going to be meaningful. And now we have something. And,
here we are.
Yeah. And here we are with a gradual increase with, I want to say the number ending was well over 650.
Yeah, I believe it was like
close to 7.
Yeah, now I can't. No,
on a Saturday night, in the summertime, you have everything working against you as far as time of year, interest, and everything else, because they're not, as far as I know, besides maybe advertisement.
I've got the numbers from last week's.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Well, last week it was Punk and Darby versus Ricky Starks and Christian Cage in the main event.
Right. Yeah.
And the final number there, the last quarter had 657,000 viewers, up 4,000 from the quarter before it.
Right.
And up 24,000 in the key demographic. Yeah, the whole show, even the women's match. I shouldn't say it like that. Fuck it, I did. Even the women's match went up from the previous segment. Listen, the show started, at 664. It jumped down. Oh, that sucks. It dropped down 108,000 viewers in the second quarter, which was Jay and Juice versus Action Andretti and Darius Martin. And then by the end of the third quarter, it came back up 10,000. It came back up 11,000 viewers. In the next quarter, it came back up 53,000 viewers. The next quarter came back up 11,000 viewers. The next quarter up 12. The next quarter was up 32.
So
it's up and away.
Right. And it would have more to do with the guys that they were working, Andretti and Martin, because they just don't know them.
Right.
And it's not their fault. And, it's understandable. Like not every quarter is going to rise, in a huge way. But the fact that they came back means what? The fans were interested in the show and what they wanted to see. Mm-hmm. They have something there that they want to see. And the people in charge are putting the things that they want to see where they know that they need to be. It's really not that difficult. It's the same way we would, like I laugh all the time thinking about how ridiculous VPW was, but how unbelievably successful it probably looked to somebody from the outside coming in, right?
Right.
Like, here we are, our dumbasses, all in the ring, doing God knows what, and saying all the things that would have got us canceled,
right,
to each other and to anyone near us. And then Sean would walk up to Kevin or me or whoever and be like, yeah, put the show together. Yeah, okay. And then he would leave. Yeah. And his phone would ring. Hello, wrestling. I didn't know if he was asking a question or what, but anyways, then we'd sit there and think, all right, here's who we got. Right names. All right, put this guy with this guy. And then we would put the matches like, well, this one's going to be so-so. So let's make that 2. Let's make this first. And then we put it together like a little puzzle. Then we'd stick our shitty, hello, wrestling. Then we'd stick our shitty written piece of paper with someone's, electrical tape on the brick wall in the back. And then here's the lineup.
Yep.
And then we'd go out and tear the house down with it, and we normally did one angle that we had invested like serious time on, and then maybe another angle, a lesser one right before to kind of set up for the next show. But to me, it goes back to I think it's like a Bruce Lee quote: "Simplicity breeds brilliance." And somebody coming from the outside that maybe didn't like VPW or thought it was less than would show up and just be like, that was fucking awesome. That was insane. This was, and we had so many people after a while just kind of like, hey, can I come back, or blah, 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 or I want to, this, that, and the other. All of a sudden it became the place to be. And that slowly is what the formula for Collision is. It'll be interesting to see once the Collision brand starts getting its matches set for Wembley and what they start to do this month. And that's what's going to be interesting to see, is how how they do it and how Dynamite is going to do it. What are going to be the differences between setting up the 2 angles, or the 2 shows setting up angles for the biggest event this promotion will have.
That CM Punk, did you hear his promo from last night?
Clips of it, yeah, like small parts.
He even brought up in his promo, he mentioned that he is the first wrestler from AEW to say the words Wembley Stadium into a microphone. Okay?
That's insane.
We are 28 days away. 29, give or take, right? With whatever time it is, whatever. And from their biggest show ever, and it's a mystery.
Yep.
There's not one match announced.
It's crazy.
Outside of just them putting the graphic up.
Right, of a bunch of people.
They're available.
Yeah.
this is still radio silence on this show.
Yeah.
Even more so on the pay-per-view following it 7 days later.
Right.
Now, the reason I wanted to talk so much about Collision tonight, because last night's Collision, I thought we were going to set things in motion. And what it did was leave me with more questions. All right? Because CM Punk pulled the old title out of the bag, spray painted his mark on it, and called himself the real world's champion. Okay? And then Ricky Starks made a challenge, but the challenge wasn't for Wembley Stadium. It was for Collision next week. Okay? With Ricky Steamboat as the special guest referee.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay? But in my mind, right, CM Punk pulls the title out of the bag that he says he never lost, that his blood is on from last September, all this shit. But the current world champion is in the locker room. And he's having a match later tonight later last night against the World Tag Team Champions.
Yes.
And I found it odd that the character of MJF would have nothing to say about this. And I was expecting some type of rebuttal there. And then they had the tag title match. And I was like, well, surely there's going to be something at the end of this match that is going to set something into motion for MJF, because this pay-per-view is around the corner. And we got another guy claiming to be the world champion. He's the current world champion. They're obviously not going to win the tag titles, which they didn't.
Right.
So what are we doing here? And then they lose that match. He takes the pin by falling on his sword for Adam Cole. Okay. And there was no heel turn. There was a big hug. There was no grab of the microphone. Hey, CM Punk, I'm the real world's champion.
Right.
So now what we have here is we have this real world's champion storyline, but it doesn't seem to me that the current world's champion gives a shit. So what are they doing? What we have here are two open-ended storylines, which I'd imagine there's a way to go.
Yeah. This, again, might be the theme here of AEW all the way around, but how much of this is Punk explaining, look, we got to do this first, and then how much of this is, did MJF bring this up? Like, was this an argument in the back? Was this, hey man, I can't, you're going to make me look like an idiot standing out there just holding my dick in front of everybody, with nothing to say about this, and it's not fair to his character,
Right.
But and it's not, and again, I think it goes back to experience. I mean, I fell victim. I think everybody kind of falls victim to the whole, well, okay, there's a bigger picture. I know, it still could have been addressed. I felt, like as a wrestler, again, I would have spoke up about, hey man, this isn't helping me. And was it was it pushed away by Punk? And look, let's just get through this, and then next week, I mean, it leaves us with that. It leaves us with, all right, well, what's he going to say next week, or is he going to say something? I feel like if MJF would have came out, it could have muddied the waters for Starks a little, right?
Right.
Because then he becomes less important in this whole situation. this is a way for Punk to get his win back against Starks, which is what I think the match is going to be for. Because if it's not for the real world championship,
it's for the real world's win back.
Yeah, it's for Punk to get, got to get that win back, brother. So yeah, exactly. He is doing the whole, so I feel like this is his little nudge at like, I'm the Hogan here, it's TBS 605 style Saturday night.
Yeah.
We're just starting it. It's everyone's green compared to him. They don't know how to play that type of game that he knows how to play. He's got the owner's ear, all these things. Even though he's doing everything right for the show, again, MJF as the world champion should be speaking up for himself in some way, because you could have done something, like you said. It could have been, the FTR match. They lose, they hug, everyone's kind of happy. Let me address something real quick here. Could have been done, should have been done.
Or even just saying into the camera, I'm the real.
It really should have been done as shoot style as you could have been. Could have been halfway walk out, jog back, yell into whoever's the commentators, announcer.
Hold on, you just made me. So when Starks is coming out for the promo, right?
Yeah.
He comes out on stage and he's like, whoa, 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 no music or anything.
Right.
And then he goes, you know what? I want to do my entrance. Guy in the back, play my song. And he looks out at the crowd and he goes, pretend you never saw me. And he runs back. And then he comes out and they hit his music. And then Nigel McGuinness goes, oh my God, it's Ricky Starks. What a surprise.
Oh, I love that.
Oh God, I almost fell out, bro.
Yeah.
Right off the chair.
That's a Bobby the Brain style comment. That's awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I would have did something. I would have pushed the issue if I was MJF to say something about it.
Right.
At some point. And like I said, it didn't need to be its own freaking 10-minute, a long statement. It just needed to be it should have been addressed as their world champion. Again, it is CM Punk, and I'm sure MJF's looking at it like, oh, all right, like we'll get there eventually. I'm sure we will. I don't know, is that the main event for Wembley?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it is the main event for Wembley, like it's time to get on the horse here and start circling the wagons.
Again, Punk bringing the belt out this time, addressing it. It needed to be addressed from MJF in some way. It just needed to be. I'm not talking.
Say Punk defends it next week against Starks.
Right.
And then maybe we get some type of MJF interaction there. And then we're off to the races. I just kind of feel like with 3 weeks to go, this should have been on the oven 2-3 weeks ago.
Is MJF on Dynamite?
He's been on Collision twice.
But is he on Dynamite every week, or was
just
he last
about
week?
now? Yeah.
Okay.
In some capacity.
I don't know. Does he say something there on Dynamite? And then
that makes him look like fucking bowling shoes, though. If he was in the building last night, and then he waits till he gets to a building 5 days later that CM Punk's not in to say something.
Yeah, but at this point it doesn't matter though, because that's how he looked.
Yeah. The
fact that the show ended and he never addressed it at all, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, I know technically he's the champion or whatever, but he looks like a less than champion than Punk because of the situation that happened Saturday.
Right. And this AEW has done nothing to help MJF's world title reign at all since it started. And now it's just like they're throwing this on top of it is like, ooh, like they ain't helping them very much.
Well, whose fault is that, though?
Right.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, you have an amateur booker. He doesn't know what he's doing. MJF, I know, is, or at least I've been told, is a big, like, his looks back at the history of wrestling, right? Well, I would start, if I were him, I would start thinking more along the lines of being more selfish, because he's at the top of the mountain. So to stay there, you gotta do some shit for you. And this is a good example of that. If we are going to MJF and Punk, it's not starting off well.
Right. And if we are going there for Wembley,
right,
it's started very late. Very, very late.
Well, all of it is, yeah, because we're a month out and we've got nothing.
Right.
We've got a building.
Right. So basically this Wembley Stadium, it's just going to be a giant fucking spot show.
Oh yeah, because Wembley sold this
right.
this
out.
It's
a big birthday party.
Right. This is Wembley sold it out. Yeah.
So, but what I'm wondering though is like, there's so many like the bloodline. The bloodline has so many possibilities. You can get into a storyline, any storyline, and you can know where you're starting, you can know what you want to do, and you can know what your outcome is, right? But things change. Sometimes you might want to take something longer, or somebody gets hurt. A storyline can be very open-ended.
Yeah.
You can start something and not really have an idea of where you're going, or you can have an idea of where you're going, but not really know what the end result is going to be.
Right.
Do you think that that's what we're in the midst of here? Or do you think that they have a plan, they're just executing poorly?
I feel like WWE always has a plan.
Right.
And it obviously is going to go as fast or as slow as they might be feeling with how the responses are. I'm not sure exactly what they think the plan is for this exactly. I don't know. Like, I don't think that they're going to get past Jay and then go right into Solo.
Right.
I feel like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want that. But then what do you do with Solo and Roman in the meantime? The Jay stuff, obviously there'll be rematches through the house show loops and stuff like that. So it'll continue on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's just going to end. I'm not sure where you go from there. I don't know. WWE's a little weird right now to try to figure out, even though like maybe a few years back, it was pretty, this is what they do. 1, 2, 3, and then we're done, right. 1, 2, 3. Now though, especially with this story, I'm not sure. I don't think that Solo's necessarily ready, definitely to take the belt from Roman. I don't think. They may think otherwise, or I don't know. I honestly don't. I'm not sure. Because I feel like to end such a historic reign, it has to be done at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Like, do we have enough material to get us? I feel like if you did maybe Jay ends this, start the fall, give us LA Knight till the Rumble, and then Solo and Roman. Possibly. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. There's so many different, I guess, directions you can go where you're at right now. I feel like LA Knight should get something to elevate him. I feel like if he's going to lose at SummerSlam, he's like in the U.S. title match, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, you can do one of two things. You can do LA Knight wins the U.S. belt, and then do they push Theory to win the Rumble, and then Theory's the next guy for Roman? Then, or do you give us Roman and LA Knight till the Rumble, and everyone thinks LA's gonna win it, and he wins again? Then we start Solo, and Solo. I don't know. Like,
I've 180'd. I'm back on the Jey Uso train.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Of all of my years watching wrestling, I've never felt this way.
Right.
I don't know.
That's
what's gonna and I don't like the way this makes me feel. It makes me feel stupid.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, because it's like you don't know.
But the thing is although the Usos have been presented as top guys because they've been with Roman, they, like Sami Zayn, without Roman, they don't feel like top guys after that.
Right.
Like, although Sami is a good character and brilliant at what he does, and he'll make whatever work.
Yeah, but he didn't beat Roman.
Huh?
He didn't beat Roman. Whoever
no, I know.
Roman is gonna be it's gonna be a different world of Daisy agrees with me.
Right.
It's a different world of momentum and adulation from the crowd. It's gonna be like nothing we've ever seen before.
I don't see Jey winning. At best, maybe he's standing tall at the end. But even that, again, this whole thing is, I feel like it's coming back to, this is Roman's story. And this is all, in my mind, this is all going on a 10-part Roman Reigns documentary. I'm dead ass serious.
Like, at some point, it's got to end.
It does. But the story is, we all thought SummerSlam was it. And then we all thought the Royal Rumble. And then we thought, Cody coming back was the big, real, start of what the fuck are we watching? And that's when I realized, like, when he won, in the back of my mind, I thought, okay, this Cody thing feels almost too obvious. Like, it was like too much.
Yeah.
This is what you're supposed to do. And I thought, how crazy would it be if Roman beat him? And then I thought, is that going to hurt Cody to where he'll never rebound? But clearly it did not. And I feel that Sami not winning, I knew Sami wasn't going to win, even though, 90% of the average fan thought he's got to win, right? It's in Montreal.
Too. Dave Meltzer.
Right. And
very upset that he didn't win in Montreal.
Yeah. And, and how many times, did the hometown guy not win when Flair came to town? Every time. You know what I mean? Like,
every town, every time.
Every time.
Every night.
Every night. It's the same thing. And I just think that I definitely, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Jey is not going to beat Roman.
Okay.
He's not.
You're locked in on it.
I'm locked in because I just, man, I feel like Jay winning would have been Owen beating Brett for the belt. Like, we all know that he's good enough, and people would have popped if he did.
You mean we all know that Owen was better and more entertaining?
Yes, by far. And I legit feel in that SummerSlam match that they had that Owen, when he was dangling, I think he was like, how big of a rib would it be if I fucking won? Like, and I think Brett is like, if I don't hold this motherfucker, he's gonna win.
Brett knew. Brett knew.
Brett knew what was coming.
If I don't
He's
hold
like,
him snug, he's going.
yeah, he's like, if I don't legit beat this motherfucker tonight, he's going to win the WWF Championship. And laugh the whole way home. Jay's not winning. Solo's not winning. I feel like this might be, if you insert, if I'm writing it, you finish Jay by the end of the summer with Roman. You move in LA Knight, get us to the Rumble. Solo tries to do something, but underneath that, Austin Theory wins the Rumble. Roman loses to Austin Theory next year at WrestleMania.
Here's what I think. If it's not going to be Jay, okay?
You can't just say, like, you can't say.
I can absolutely Bobby Heenan this and just change my pick as people enter the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Okay.
I picked him from the beginning. What?
Yeah. I told you it was going to be him, Gorilla.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I told you.
If it's not Jay, Roman is going to retain his title at WrestleMania 40, and then the next night it's going to be like that Vince Russo Monday Nitro, where they're just going to reset WWE, soft reboot, change everybody's name and gimmicks.
Right.
And it'll be like rebooting a franchise. It'll be like the 10th set of Batman movies. It'll just be like none of the other ones ever happened before. And then Roman's just not there. He goes home. There's no more. He just takes his ball and he leaves, and they just start something new.
Then who's beating him?
What?
Then who's beating him on that night?
Nobody. This is Roman just wins, and then the next day it's like it never happened. They just start everything over again.
Well, that's not gonna fucking happen.
You know, it's Disney over there anyway now. Why not?
No, I feel like they've had that. You have to understand, like, they've had that belt on Theory for a while for a reason.
Well, they're trying to. We spoke about this a while ago. They're trying to modernize all their records.
No, right? I know that, but I also feel, I mean, he might not lose at SummerSlam, but I really feel like that's the whole, you know, getting them ready type of thing. Because who else? Who are your 3 or 4 picks for the Rumble then? Because if Theory isn't number 1 or number 2,
I think without seeing what kind
Gunther,
of Rumble momentum or hype anybody has.
But I know, but you can see it's got to be Gunther, Theory,
LA Knight, or Dominic.
If LA doesn't get in there with Roman before the Rumble, he has to be up there. And then I mean, that's probably the one thing that AJ hasn't won to finish him off, and he's going to be done in a couple years or a year or 2.
Yeah.
I could see him winning it and not winning the belt, or maybe one last hurrah. I don't know. Like,
I'm willing to put my eggs in the Dominic Mysterio basket. That was not the reaction I thought I was going to get from you, but
I feel like Dominic's good, but he's not going to be taken seriously for a while. I fear this is going to evolve into a comedy-ish gimmick for him or something.
You think so?
I think
That's a negative. So that would be change and not evolve.
Right.
Right. It would change into a comedy-ish gimmick.
Yeah.
He had a good
there's
match
no
on Raw the other night. I forgot who it was with. Fuck, who did he wrestle? Oh, it was with Sami Zayn. Never mind. It was Sami.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you know, I could have had a great match on Raw the other night if it was with Sami.
Yeah. But I'm just, you know, I don't know. Like, I feel like LA Knight LA Knight, Theory, Gunther, those are your guys, you know, coming out of the Rumble.
Damian Priest.
Yeah, Priest. Well, I mean, he's on Raw, but I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion because of Judgment Day as a group, you know.
See, it's weird because there's nothing in the pipeline.
Yeah.
So if the person to beat Roman Reigns isn't already on the roster,
right,
then where the hell are they coming from?
Yeah. I just feel like it's Theory.
NXT is a it's a shell of what it used to be. It's I don't see where this person's going to come from.
Yeah, I just have this feeling that it's going to be like a Theory or a Gunther, like coming out of the Rumble. And I don't know. I feel like they're going to give LA Knight an opportunity to do something with Roman because I think that would be great. But I feel like that's going to come before Rumble
to
give him something to do to start setting up Mania. I mean, and then in between there, like he might be doing something. Is that when he's doing the whole solo thing? And then he gets out of the solo thing a couple months before Mania. And then
you also got to remember, we're going to have, at some point, Jimmy Uso is going to come back from this injury and he's going to have something to say to somebody. So you got a little time for Roman to eat up right there.
I feel like the bloodline, though, they got to at least at some point get away from just everyone in the group, right? I mean, that's why I feel like LA Knight would be after Jay, you throw LA Knight in there. This way, Solo's still kind of off to the side, but you know, we could do some more of those like bumping into each other type things or something and kind of test the water. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, like you said earlier about not understanding it, not really not understanding it, but it's not a typical pattern.
Right.
You can't really figure it out one way or the other, you know.
You see, they must have watched our show last week because they threw Karrion Kross a W on SmackDown.
Yeah, against Gallows or
Carl Anderson. Yeah.
Which,
I guess even the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Jesus. Well, Rick, that's all I really I had in mind to talk about this week. Do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Not really. Just concerns? I mean, when was Blood and Guts was last week? So what did Ibushi show up on Dynamite this week?
What had happened was I went to watch Dynamite the other night, and there was a segment, and then there was a Jungle Boy promo, and his words were like verbal chloroform, right? And so I fell asleep. It wasn't even like I fell asleep. Like I was watching, and I was like, this is just the most monotone, boring human being on the face of the... And then I died, right? And then like several hours later, I resuscitated myself, and I went to go put it back on, and I was like, oh, I better not do that again. So I don't know what happened after that. But if Jungle Boy is going to be a heel on television, he should start. I don't know. How about bringing out his girlfriend to speak for him?
Right. Yeah, just put her on the TV. But the whole thing is like I didn't see that he did anything, Ibushi.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we care?
Right, because he got AEW'd.
Yeah. I mean, will he be gone for the next 3 months again? Like, I don't,
Well,
again,
I'm sure they're gonna pay him, so don't worry.
Well, yeah, I'm not worried about that. It's just more of a once again dropping a ball on a guy that you are probably paying big to be a big deal, and then now he's not.
Yeah.
And you did it to him yourself.
Yeah.
You can't blame these guys, man. Especially after you hear some of them on their own podcast talking about, I don't know what, they won't talk to me. They won't tell me anything. So, like Monday.
You know who I feel bad for in all of this?
Who?
It's Christopher Daniels. Right? Isn't he some type of liaison to the assistant manager of the region of the talent relations department?
Yeah. I remember I was in the New Japan locker room when they brought, I think the night they brought him in to work Jay, and Daniel Garcia he had just started doing a few shows to the New Japan.
Yeah.
Right when they had signed him to AEW. I remember him asking, "Oh, we're not supposed to do indies anymore, but can I still do these shows? Like, I want to work, just here." And then Chris was kind of explaining to him, like, this isn't an indie, even though it's in the States, like, he's like, yeah, he goes, it won't be a problem. I just remember him kind of like, and that was a nice exchange of like, hey, by the way, I can only imagine what his phone is constantly blowing up 24/7 with these guys now.
Oh, I'm surprised he doesn't walk around the locker room in a Curryman mask, just hoping that nobody realizes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Going from room to room real quiet.
Yeah. I'm not here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
he writes Frankie Kazarian on the locker room door.
Exactly.
This will throw him off.
Yeah. So
poor bastard.
Yep. That's all I got. I didn't have anything else.
All right. Well, we seem to have hit our basic timestamp here, so we're pretty good at that. We're consistent, if nothing else.
Yes.
All right. Well, Rick, it's been a pleasure, Mother Fluxers. We'll catch you next.
Yeah.
Mother Fluxers, we'll catch you next time. This has been Podfluxxx, and now I am going to roll the gimmick. And what the fuck?